You built the business. Now, build the man. This is the Ben Price Experience.
Mac, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben.
Who are you and why are you here?
Well, those are two questions that I've been pursuing for most of my adult life, really.
Mm.
And who I am is an ever page. The pages keep turning because who I was when I was 4 is not who I was when. Well, I guess I was, but it was another version when I was 14, and so it goes on.
Yeah.
And so, and it's really interesting, I think, particularly perhaps for someone who has loved what their physical body could do with mountains and rivers and forests and whatever, and then move into a stage of your life where every year you can do less, you know? So
Wow.
it's like getting used to that and accepting what has to be accepted while not accepting things that don't have to. But there is no getting around it. You get older
Yeah.
and you lose muscle and you change. And whereas once I could rely that if I looked at a gap and reckoned and I could jump it, I would land where I planned to land. It's not the same now. And notice old people often, if they're going to put a cup in the cupboard, they kind of miss slightly and bang it, Anyway, so there's all of that, but in the end, I'm a person who is seeking to live as fully and as well with as much power and integrity and truthfulness as I can. And and that means following whatever appears to be the voice, the direction, the guidance that I feel that I've been given throughout my life, really. Yeah. But I am most definitely, Ben, I am a spiritual person. I'm on a spiritual path, but it's not the kind of spiritual that pretends that it's, I know that I'm that. Well, you can't see, I'm that. And he goes out.
No,
I have the capacity to be violent, to be cruel, to be all kinds of unpleasant and difficult things. And I have the capacity to be kind and gentle and loving and all these other things. So obviously I attempt to understand myself. I have for a long time been trying to understand myself enough to have choices about how I bring myself. Yeah.
And how young are you?
I'm 76 and a half.
76.
So I
76.
So I have 3.5 years to 80.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the path you're on, where did that start?
When I was really little. I think, 1, 2, 3.
Mm.
My mum, I was born in end of April, and the first summer I was just outside in the garden almost all the time in some kind of little pram or cot or buggy or something. And lying on my back gurgling, so to speak. And I think that that and the extraordinary childhood that I had was almost entirely outdoors and free to go where I wanted and do what I wanted with my parents never knowing where I was. The endless fun and adventures we had with lakes and islands and getting lost and everything.
Where did you grow up? In the UK?
Well, it doesn't. Yeah, I'll tell you, and it doesn't sound like the kind of place one might imagine, but Sutton Coldfield is north of Birmingham. I was
Right.
born in Malvern. We moved to Sutton Coldfield because my father was a doctor and that's where his practice was. But Sutton Coldfield, where we lived, was right on the edge of Sutton Park. That's about 5,000 acres of, and particularly in those days, in the very early 50s, it was moorland and bog and marsh and lakes. You could swim in all of them, and woodland, and 5,000 acres was enough to get lost in.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think it began there, and then there was a really difficult period of time in my later teens, I think, when I suddenly thought everything that I love and everything that makes sense to me is now being described as the things of childhood, and I have to leave them. And but looking at the adult life looked incredibly boring and very tedious and repetitive as well. So I went a little bit AWOL for a while, and I was part of the whole sort of hippie generation. So we were very fortunate. Went to university and everything for free, and you didn't go there to study really. You went there to have a good time, and we did. And and then just things happened. My father died. I taught for a little while, then I left that. Then I found psilocybin in the mountains of Snowdonia, and we were doing epic journeys with them in the worst weather we could find, fasting for 7 days, 10 days, then take a big dose of psilocybin and then up into the high peaks.
Wow.
Photographs are covered in ice and snow, and it was a little bit like I knew I was never going to go back from that place. So that was just a period of time, but it cemented in me the determination to chart my own path. That led to learning from Native Americans and becoming apprenticed in that way.
Okay.
And that I did for 20 years. And,
Wow.
5-year Jungian analysis and all kinds of other things, until I started my own leadership business in Russia, Poland, and the UK. And that was an accident because I was the gardener in the leadership centre and I intervened in a fight between two Sainsbury's execs. And it went well, so they asked if I'd like to do more of that kind of work. And so I ended up as the head of consultancy, and then I started my own business.
Wow.
And then one day a client of mine said, the rest of the Lloyd's of London market is going through the floor and people are losing fortunes. We believe that out of this we'll be like a phoenix and we'll make millions when we sell the company. We would like you to work with us so that when we sell it, we'll be able to put our hand on our hearts and say we did it with integrity and with our values intact. And 5 years later, they sold it to Warren Buffett and made the millions. And then David, the majority shareholder, said, "We want to say thank you." And I said, "Well, you don't need to because you paid me well and that was great." And he said, "No, this is above and beyond. Do you have a dream?" And I said, "Yes, I do. It's a valley that I saw in my early 20s in a very strange kind of like a vision or something. And there I will create some kind of enterprise where people come
Wow.
and renew their pact with life and living
Mm.
and attend to their wounds and hurts, but also pledge themselves to future generations of human and more than human."
Wow.
And he said, "What do you need?" I said, "I need the valley." And he wrote me a check that bought 50 acres of Devon. And he said, "Well, there you are." And that's where I'm speaking from now. And that's what I've been doing ever since, really.
That is an amazing story.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
It's never stopped. It's just extraordinary. We were visited by a group of Indigenous elders last year called the Earth Elders. They have a website, the earthelders.org,
Okay.
and they were blown away when they visited. They'd come straight from seeing King Charles, and they'd come over to Embercombe, and they
Wow.
said, "We didn't know that there were people in your land who are doing what we're trying to bring,
Mm.
making ceremony, listening to your own waters and forests, doing all this sort of stuff with your land." So this spring, or no, this summer, a ceremony will be held at Embercombe with them, and Embercombe will become one of their global sacred sites. And they've asked
Wow.
me to join as one of the Earth Elders.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, I mean, I really love it. I really love it.
Mm.
And of course, it's set against a background of what I consider to be truly frightening shifts in and I don't really know what the end game is, but I'm pretty certain that levels of suffering around the world way in excess of where we are now. And that's, if we let that sink in, that's not easy, you know. So, and just add to that, what we consider to be the major challenge of our time is not actually any of the big ticket issues, global warming, whatever. It's the passivity of millions of good people who somehow don't seem to think that it has anything to do with them, or if they think it has, that they have no way of doing anything about it. And
Yeah.
so they sit back and maybe shop a little differently and dispose their waste a little differently, but essentially do nothing.
Mm.
So, we need a revolution, but a revolution of love, really. It's like there should be no business except social enterprise, in my view. Every business should be there to serve. Schools should be learning for life, not
Mm.
pass exams, University should be what the name suggests. And government should have at the centre future generations, and irrespective of party politics, every decision should be based around what is the impact on current and future generations of human and more than human. And so, of course, then you get people say, well, yeah, okay, maybe I agree with that, but do you honestly think that's going to happen? I say, I've no idea, but I don't bother myself with that question. It's
Yeah.
like, I know what to do. I know how I wish to use my time. I'll do it unconditionally without regard to a result. And hopefully, with the company of others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's great to meet you.
It's good to meet you as
Properly.
well. And we'll put
Um,
together next year.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm really excited. I was excited anyway, but now I'm even more excited to be
Great.
working with you. So, yeah. So we were introduced by Muji, who's going to organize a men's retreat in Hungary. You're going to be a part of that, and
Yep.
I'm going to be a part of that. And yeah, I wanted to just pick up on that last bit you said about a lot of people are quite skeptical when you talk about, can there be world peace, and can there be this, and can there be that, and I always think, well, I agree with you. I don't know the answer, but I'd rather be leaning on that side of the fence, because so what I say is I help people win the war in their mind.
Mm. Mm.
And because all war all literal war starts in the mind. It has to.
Yes.
So if you win the war in the mind, you win the war out there. And then I always get someone chirp up and say, well, do you really think we're going to have world peace? I'm like, well, like I said, I'd rather lean towards that. I believe it'd be possible if everyone was to work on their minds, and I think what you're saying is like the connection with the land as well.
Yeah, I do feel that is, I don't think that it's a coincidence that so many indigenous cultures eventually, and I think there was a journey to this, but came to very similar philosophies of caring for the earth. And that children are, my children are your children, that it is the community, the village, that looks after the children. And that disconnected from nature, we become very dangerous. Really dangerous, because then we fantasize about being more than where we came from, as it were. It's right. Like we imagine that nature is only there to serve our needs. And when that happens, we begin to just take and take and take without any regard to whatever that might mean. So, yeah, I think it's a good answer. I'm honestly, I have no idea. I just know that I would like chiseled on my gravestone sort of thing. He did what he could while he could.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Blimey. So talk to me a little bit more about Embercombe and what happens when people come to see. Is it you leading them through ceremony, or is there a team? It's like, what happens? And
yeah, we've been running 26 years, and it's changed a lot in that time. We're down to a very small team, salaried or part-time or full-time team. And most of the people who are actually running the programs are freelance, but very closely associated with Embercombe. So that would be like me, because I'm not employed, I'm not salaried by Embercombe. I have my own sort of business, if I can call it that. Well, actually, I'm just thinking about it. Actually, the co-lead of the journey, which is our main flagship program, Tuba Kehan from Turkey, she is part-time employed Embercombe. So we have a little small group of people who run most of our core programs on that side of things, and then there's the rewilding of the sites, which began several years ago, and a woman called Laura Fairs runs that, and she's created some fabulous rewilding programs, and they are oversubscribed and really running well, and they're one of the top similar programs in the UK now. So, but I think I would say that either this is the truth, or I hope that over the next couple of years will become fully the truth, that all of Embercombe, in whatever it does, is devoted to regeneration. And so, I was talking with some people, really lovely people from an organization called Groundswell, who are have begun their whole journey. It's around regenerative agriculture. But they're now going to start a school, and that school will broaden beyond agriculture. So this sort of feeling of all kinds of people, all kinds of entities and centers of different kinds or another springing up, and I just hope that they're not sort of that they are, or they become committed to the idea of saying truly like what is needed rather than what would the market like, so to speak. Because we never said what would the market like. We said, we've had a set of experiences. This is what we believe our gift is, and we offer it. And that gift is not for us just to get wealthy. I'm certainly not, and I don't think anybody else associated with Embercombe is wealthy in financial terms, but wealthy in terms of, really fabulous, well-lived lives with a lot of laughter and a lot of challenge and a lot of joy. Yes, most definitely.
Mhm.
And I think those programs, all of the programs that I run with Tuva, and that they are all linked around this concept of the twin trail. And that came from a chance conversation with one of my mentors a long time ago, who said we would never trust any leader or come to that any person who was not walking the twin trail, the inner path of your own self-healing, self-becoming, everything to do with the discovery of who you are and the gifts that you carry and what's in your heart to do. And the outer trail of having effect, powerful effect in the world. Both together, not one first, then the other, but
Right.
both of them forever. And that links with, and I met with the Tuhoi Maori in New Zealand a few years ago. I asked them if they had a concept of retirement, and they were laughing, and they said, yes, we do. We retire our young people between the ages of about 17 to 28, 30. They said, because it's hopeless. They just need to go and burn, They need to do what young people do.
Right.
They need to do it lots and really go for it and just be young. When they come back, then we say to them, and now you are in service to the community.
Okay.
And 10 or 15 years later, we say to them, okay, now you're warmed up. Now we need you to change gear and come to us in your power.
Yeah.
And then 15 years later, they say, good. So far, so good.
Yeah.
And it never stops. At 80, you're on the surfboard and you are striving to be the embodiment of what a courageous person of integrity means. And that's all you have to do. I mean, it's a lot, but that's it. And I love that because it says to old people, it's not about like kicking back, signing up for more cruises and voting politically for the benefit of old people. It's about really understanding that there are an awful lot of younger people who might perhaps not have to experience some of the harshness of the things that you might have learnt if you were willing to share that with them, but not by giving advice and not by boring them with your, stuff, but by standing next to them, by being present, by encouragement, by your just love of them as young people living. Yeah.
I was listening to, I think I mentioned this to you actually last time we spoke, John Lee,
Yes.
and he was speaking about we've got lots of olders, but not many elders.
Yes. Yep.
What's your take on that?
Well, I think it's true. I mean, I think, I do feel that our society, we have pushed the older people to the extremities out. They're not interested. But the bit that I find particularly distressing is that we have colluded with that. We didn't put up a fight.
Right.
We just said, oh, right, yes, thank you, yes, that's right, of course that's right, And my generation, I mean, we own most of the property that's going. We've done very nicely in all sorts of ways.
Mm.
And we still vote politically for keeping the triple lock and, all this on pensions and Brexit and everything. It doesn't matter anything. The motivation, I mean, it's not really a political comment from me about Brexit stuff, but I just feel that anything that my generation will vote for what's best for them in general,
Yeah.
rather than what an elder should do, which is say, how can I be in support of those who are coming behind me?
Hmm.
So that's a big thing, and but if that could happen, that would be amazing. It would unlock an awful lot of money. It would unlock an awful lot of experience. It would create a separation, a division of understanding between just giving advice and regaling someone who's not too interested with your stories, as it were, with a much more adult and wise offering that's available when it's wanted and present, washing dishes or being around, but not always being somehow honored or fated as something special.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of leadership, right?
Yes, yes, it is, isn't it? That's right. That's right. That's what it is.
We've lost our leaders, which are our elders, in a sense. Yeah, interesting. Kind of same topic. Initiation, especially with men. That's another thing that we've lost as a culture. Can you speak to the importance of that and the problem that we have because of the lack of it?
Yeah. Well, to begin with, I do feel that in all kinds of ways we've got a bit lost. And part of that, perhaps even very lost, but part of that is imagining that the story is all about, is basically an economic one. Succeed, build wealth, and your house, your car, your partner, perhaps your family, whatever you own is the statement of who you are as a successful person. And it doesn't, and obviously that's only available to some. Now, the difficulty I feel, if we take, say, some of those tribal peoples who are sending their young people out into the bush, into wild country for however long, to live wild and show that they had gained the skills and had the courage and all the self-sufficiency and everything to do this thing. Those same cultures would have entertained the possibility that that young person will never return.
Right.
And we find that unacceptable now, except, of course, if they choose or go to the forces, in which case that's still true.
That's what I did.
Yeah. Now, that is a rite of passage, depending, of course, on the experience that the person has, but that is definitely some kind of rite of passage.
Yeah.
If there's good mentorship, good leadership within that, then some really profound things could be learned. And if there's very poor leadership and a sort of just a rather distorted version of manhood is offered, then it can do a lot of harm, which society then receives on the return of those people, as it were.
Mhm.
But I do feel this is a big problem, Ben, because I mentioned going into the Snowdonia peaks in the way that we did when I was young. Well, I was in my very late 20s, early 30s. There's no way that whole experience would have got past any kind of uh, safety net. I
Right.
mean, risk was enormous.
Yeah.
Mm. But I would say that the experiences that we had were absolutely, extraordinary. M- Many times, I think when we go, when we move into anything we could call adventure, you know, um, well, less so now, but you know, the absence of a safety net makes it altogether a different experience.
Mm, definitely.
So,
It puts you closer in touch with life.
yeah, it does because death is close, and you and
Yeah.
you
The closer you get to death, the closer you get to.
yeah.
Yeah, I can
So
definitely.
I don't know how you deal with this in a culture now where, let's say, whether it's executives or school children or whatever else, there will be a lot of work that will go into making sure that it's safe. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I am saying that it needs a great deal of thought because I in my childhood, we did break bones and, you know, lacerate ourselves in different ways. We came home bloodied and bruised and, broken sometimes. Well, that was I mean, it was incredible. And it could have gone badly wrong, but for the most part, it doesn't. I mean, riding horses, let's say, you know, riding horses anyway, riding horses without a saddle, riding horses over rough country, it's dangerous.
Mm.
Hunting is in the way that certainly we used to hunt anyway, is potentially dangerous. So I do feel initiation is really important, but I suppose what I'm saying is we have to consider and think what that might mean. And just to finish that, I have a Mohawk friend, and she was telling me about how they are reintroducing initiation into their tribal young people in an attempt to try and stem the awful social ills that are endemic within most native peoples in North America.
Right.
And she said they've decided that they can't be a one-off. It must be over a period of time. So theirs is a 4-year journey. And because they realize that their young people need to, some kind of coming, some powerful experience, some um, um, reflection, coaching, mentorship, integrate, come back, go deeper.
Yeah.
And one of the things which in our uh, very broadly gendered world maybe doesn't, I don't know how this resonates in our society, but one of the things that the boys do is they make on one of these sessions a life-size woman's body with clay. And as they do it, naked, of course, and as they do it, they are taught everything about the biology of the woman and
Wow.
the expectation of the tribe on how they um, are with women,
And trees.
the other gender. Yeah,
Wow.
and it is amazing, isn't it? Because I know that within, I was told by an Apache woman that in her people they refer to people who do not associate with one gender or another as the third gender, and they were respected and loved and considered magical people because they were able to move, as it were, across. So
Yeah.
yeah, so if we begin to just imagine an entirely different, starting with the questions of, what does it mean to be an adult human being, person of integrity, irrespective of gender and sexuality and stuff? What kind of experiences might we have to meet to really find out who we are? Because we can all tell a good story. It's, as you will know, it's altogether different when you're cold, hungry, things haven't worked out, you're possibly with other people who you're not quite sure now you can trust them as much as you thought because the way that one or two might be behaving, or if you're lucky, you're with a group who feels fantastic, but one way or another, you have to dig deep.
Oh yeah, people's true colors come out when it's
Yeah,
things.
absolutely.
But that, like you said, they figure out, they find, or they work through their demons,
Yeah.
and you've got other people who are also suffering in that moment, can
Yes.
help them through it, and then you become closer together, and
Yep.
yeah,
So
massively.
when we talk about this, you see, we're talking about in a world of screens
Yeah,
and you know limitless number of very powerful organizations who hire psychologists and all kinds of very clever people to work out how they can manipulate us
yeah.
more effectively to get us to buy whatever it is they want us to buy. So I think it is important.
Mm.
I think we need to do it. And I think there are no really simple answers. Because even if it's a great rite of passage, what happens to that person when they return to the
Yeah,
place?
because there's no integration after. Yeah. Um. So you obviously did. It sounds as though you kind of accidentally did your own initiation at the
Yes.
first one.
I mean, I was,
Or was it deliberate?
well, I wouldn't say that would be a bit too, it was in part, but it'd be a bit too flattering because I
Right.
was more like, uh, if something looked like it needed to be thought about really carefully, I'd probably take the view, "Oh, I'll just do it anyway," you know.
What did you learn from the whole experience, that first initiation?
Uh, I mean, the Native American one was absolutely brutal. I mean, that was physically, mentally, emotionally, intellectually, really, really hard. And I learned a whole bunch of things. Um, I mean, not all of it, but regularly it was hard.
Mm.
The physical things, when I say they're easy, it's not quite right. But when you're in the sun dance and you've been without water for 4 days and you're dancing to this tree in the baking heat, naked torso, and um, no water at all for time, and you're running to the tree, and all this stuff's happening. It doesn't take long uh, before you're really wondering if you're going to make it. Whether this is the last thing you're going to do.
Mm.
So, but their advice is always, was if you spend a whole ceremony thinking about being without water, it'll be purgatory. It'll be hellish. You have to go above that and only see the tree, into you and the tree,
Right.
and you ride on the drums, and all your attention is that way. You spend your time thinking about how thirsty you are. You're finished. So it was hard. but it wasn't that hard. We had to run to the ceremony ground at one period of time where there was an underground chamber that we spent, three of us spent 7 days in there, pitch black. But
Blimey.
on the run there, we had to pass by all these other properties with huge dogs, which weren't on chains. We used to load up with rocks and sticks and everything, and then we just run this line. And they were massive and really ferocious animals, so it felt real.
Yeah.
I mean, none of them took a chunk out of us, but they got really close, and we were taking it very seriously. But I think probably much more challenging was the pretty brutal methods that they employed in seeing who you really were and how you reacted to things, and so the emotional, psychological, and mental aspects. And I feel in many ways that I benefited from it a lot. But I would say the same, I went to boarding school when I was 9. I'm born in 49, so it was whatever, 50 something. And I did okay, and I would never send any child of mine to school such as the one I went to.
Mm.
When we were beaten, we were usually bleeding, it was pretty serious stuff.
Mm.
So I would say at the end of that, I learned a lot.
It's a bit different though, isn't it? Because it's
But
not
it is
done
different.
with it's not done with the intention of a initiation as such.
No, although I think if you'd asked the master, the head teacher and all the rest of it, they would have said this, we're training them to be.
Yeah. But...
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, yeah, it was, but I would say this particular, I don't wish to paint this across all First Nations people. This particular group that I was with, it was pretty ferocious. It was very hard. So I learned a lot. But one of the things that I learned from them that I also learned from that school, and I'd learned at different times, is that very few human beings can become powerful and not be corrupted by it. And that it's extremely difficult to find a person who wields power and has access to power that is genuinely and truly trustworthy and not in their ego state about who they are and what they can do.
Mm.
And that means if you're on a spiritual path, you have to recognize that the path is strewn with bandits, thieves, and all kinds of charlatans, and it's in business, and so it is in almost everything. Politics, absolutely.
Yeah. I was listening to somebody talking about Marcus Aurelius, and because obviously he wrote notes to himself, and all the notes we have were never intended to be published, so they were just his private.
Mm.
And he wrote about that, and he apparently I don't know if it was the royalty or purple was the color that was the top color to have, and then he noticed that everyone who wore purple had the corruption as well. So he would write to himself, "Don't be purple."
Yeah.
Don't be purple.
One time. Yeah.
And he was the most powerful man in the world at that point. He could do anything he wanted.
Yeah. 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 Amazing. Well, this should be from day one at school.
Yeah.
All the way through.
Don't be purple.
Yeah, don't be purple. That's right.
So, what do you think? You've done lots of indigenous. You've learned a lot about indigenous traditions and initiations. I'm curious to know, what do you think a British or, something that's native to this land and where we live, what would that kind of initiation look like, do you think? Or maybe maybe from your research and
Mm.
things.
That is an exploration
Right.
currently for me and some friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Because um,
It's all lost and forgotten, isn't it?
yeah, and there is. I mean, no matter what anyone says, there's almost no trace there. Just little bits here and there.
Right.
And I mean, it's quite a big subject, but I mean, it was those First Nations people who first asked me to name my tribes here in Britain.
Yeah.
And this would have been about the 84. And I didn't know what they were talking about, and then they said, you were, of course, once a tribal people, name your tribes.
Yeah.
And I know I started feeling very emotional and
Don't know.
wasn't. And one of them just reeled off 20 of our late Iron Age tribes.
You British tribes.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And said, why do you think, we know the names of your tribes?
Oh,
And I
wow.
said, I don't know. And he said, because we're curious and ask questions.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I was given as a instruction was to start finding out about my own history, particularly pre-Roman history. And that, of course, takes us all the way back to the rivers and the streams and the forests and the swamp and the marsh and the sea. And it's there, I think, that's where every religion has begun, in its ancient shamanic kind of place. It's
Mhm.
moved from there. And when we think about rite of passage, it, in my mind, it must have, I'm not saying only, but it must have a really powerful nature connection.
Oh, yeah.
But the group that I'm working with at the moment, and I asked them, we explored together what it was to carry a drum, and then he
Hmm.
came, and then they were going to have drums. So immediately there is, there's this person over here who sells drums, or a better version would be, or another version would be, and there's this hermit who lives somewhere in the steppes of Russia who makes these drums out of reindeer skin and whatever, and on and on. And I was saying, well, yes, and whose drum would it be? Is it your drum? You paid your $50 or whatever it was. Make it your drum. How does it become your drum? So now we've got the same people there. They go out with a guy called Bob Reed, who stalks and shoots deer in the Halden Range. And they spend the whole day with him learning about deer, he loves deer. He loves the deer and he shoots the deer. And they learn all about it. It is his finger on the trigger, because it couldn't be theirs unless, well, first of all, we knew that one shot and the animal's dead, but apart from anything legal. Then they are encouraged, if they wish to learn about the skinning of the deer, and then all the uses of all the different body parts and things for the deer. And then there is the cooking and the eating for those that eat meat, and bringing it in. And then they go and they spend time with a woman called Jessie, and they turn the hide. Oh, it's salted first for some months. And then they go with Jessie and it turns into rawhide. And then eventually, it's probably about a year later, they're making a drum. And now they carry this drum. And the whole piece of this is to remember this drum cost the life of that beautiful creature you saw.
Mm-hmm.
So exquisite. And you made the choice to shoot it. It's on you're responsible. So when you carry this drum, how will you use it? What will it mean? What will it be? It's entirely different from one that you purchase somewhere. And so we go. So rite of passage, I think, we'll be moving in some of those sort of territories, but a lot more besides, I guess.
Yeah, you remind. So I spoke to Muji yesterday, and we were kind of recording a podcast, but it was terrible signal. And anyway, but he was talking about the connection, the power that certain plant medicines have. I think they're greater and they're more amplified if you are connected with the process of growing it, of harvesting it, of processing it, of in some way. And it's kind of a similar thing, is what you're saying.
Yes, I mean, when we were doing our psilocybin, we were harvesting the mushrooms from the mountain slopes.
Yeah.
We were drying them. We were doing all this work with them. It is, again, very different from just going onto the web and ordering them.
Yeah.
It's just a different thing. And
I imagine a British kind of traditional initiation or ceremony or something would obviously contain psilocybin because it grows so much, especially in Wales and stuff.
yes, I think so. And but
Maybe not, obviously.
it's interesting because I also love the. We use it a lot in the programs at Embercombe, but it's what was never present in my rite of passage with the people I learnt from. I did what they told me, basically. That was the deal, and that's fine. But I often feel most proud of the times when I started saying no. I'm not doing that, and I don't agree with that. And if that means I'm going to be slung out, then sling me out, because that felt much better. So I feel with something like psilocybin or any of those things, should never be this is what you have to do. It should be, this is your choice, and we'll do everything we can to help you understand what that means. And with something like that as well, we will do whatever we can to help you feel that this is a risk worth taking, and you will be safe, and it'll be okay. And at the same time, because it's the nature of the thing itself, it will be a pretty shocking and extraordinary happening. But it's done with love, done with care, done with knowledge, and it's not force-fed, so that somebody ends up feeling humiliated or less than if they chose not to. And it's a little...
In a sense, that's kind of part of the initiation, isn't it? If you say no.
Yeah. Yes. I think so. Yeah. And I was thinking, there are some people, I don't know, you may be one of them, Ben, I don't know, but let's say who could lob off the side of a cliff on an abseil and thoroughly enjoy it, and knowing what you're doing, great. But if somebody said, wow, he must be brave, then one might pause and say, well, not necessarily. I'm just, I've done this 1,000 times. I know I'm safe. And I just love the feeling that it might be, it sort of feels unsafe, even though I know that it is safe. And so I was confronted a lot by the people that trained me they used to laugh at me about the physical stuff. They'd say, yeah, we know exactly what you want us to tell you to do. You want to show that you can do all these things. Well, what we're going to say is learn another language. Yeah. We're going to say, get your history right, write a book, start giving talks. And I was terrified of all that. Absolutely terrified.
Well, because that's the part you need to integrate, I guess. Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, I'd grown up because I have a particular form of dyslexia, which means that everything which is sort of rationally based, like English language and all parts of speech and punctuation, all that sort of thing, mathematics, everything of that kind. It's all I just can't. It's not available to me. So I was 25th out of 25 in the D stream all my school life.
Oh, wow.
Clawed my way into the sixth form with O-level woodwork and
Right.
general science or something, and went to Loughborough College because I was a gymnast. Now, because being a young person, quite proud and all the rest of it, I did everything I could, even to myself, to hide the fact that I was ashamed of this. And my brothers, one, university lecturer was going to be a professor, and the other's a lawyer, all this, like, academically, things were easy for them. I used to dread Christmas because out would come the board games and all the things which would hammer it home yet again. But I learnt somewhere along the line that I am an intelligent person, but my intelligence was different, and certain things were available to me that weren't to others, and so on and so forth.
100%, yeah.
But that took an awful lot of bravery, for me to stand on the stage and speak when my greatest fear was that I'd be humiliated by revealing just how stupid I was in front of, several hundred people. So I've got some, anyway, but they would not back down. They just said, "You love our Mother Earth?" "Yes." "She needs advocates." And if that means that you find it very difficult or burst into tears on stage or whatever, well, so be it.
So be it. Yeah. I had a similar experience because I was rubbish at maths.
Right.
And so my parents, wanting to do the best thing, introduced after dinner maths club.
Right.
Which was awful. I hated it.
Yes.
And you can imagine that was quite scarring. But I managed to heal that one somewhat, and I can speak now in front of people. And but definitely a similar experience. Yeah.
It's really big, but that's also something about schools as well, Ben. I don't know why we don't have it at our teacher training things. In every staff room at the beginning of the year, let's say, the staff come together and remind themselves of this principle. Let's say, no child leaves this school without feeling good about who they are.
Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
That's pretty much the work that I do.
Yeah.
If we boil it down.
Yes.
Just realise your gifts.
Yeah. Otherwise, it will play out in one way or another.
Very good. Well, I feel like we probably better wrap it up because I can hear my son kicking off in the background. But I'm looking forward to
initiation.
Yeah, that's my initiation right now. Yeah. Thank you for your time. It's been great speaking to you. Lots of food for thought. I'm going to have loads more questions for you. And
yeah, Ben. Well, I'm looking forward also to learning, about you and
Yeah,
you
thanks.
do and how you do it and all the rest of it. But I think that'll all unfold in
It'll
time
unfold in Hungary.
in Hungary.
And I'd love to come to Embercombe at some point as well.
Yeah, yeah, you're very
Embercombe.
welcome. If you ever
Yeah.
just want to come just to look around,
Yeah, I'd love to.
and we can I can show
Brilliant.
you around anyway.
Okay.
Apart
Thank you.
from horses and
How do people find out more about you and Embercombe? Obviously, there's the website
yeah, well,
embercombe.org.
Embercombe has the website is embercombe.org. That's EMBERCOMBE.org.
Uh-huh.
And my site is rather confusingly macmacartney.com. So there's two Macs, macmacartney.com. And if you email me, it's even worse. It's mac@macmacartney.com. But really, most of my work is held within the Embercombe field. Yeah.
Okay. Great. All right. Lovely. And if there was one message you'd like to leave with the listener, what would you like them to leave us with?
I think it would be find or seek the courage to really ask what you would like this life to be for you, and how, when the day comes that you're standing at the foot of your grave and you're about to flop into it, and you look down the trail of your life, how would you like to feel, and what do you need to do to ensure that you have that feeling when that day does come?
Mm-hmm.
But you need to be brave. But being brave doesn't exclude being joyful. In fact, I think they ride rather well together.
Yeah. Nice. Lovely. And then on that note,
Great.
I'll say goodbye and I'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Ben Price Experience. These conversations are not just entertainment. They are also an invitation to confront the truth about what you are experiencing in life right this moment. An opportunity to upgrade your standards, to lead from a more powerful, grounded place. If some of these messages hit home, then maybe it is time to go deeper into who you are and who you are being. For men, I run a camp called the CEO Camp Out, or Campochi, you might have heard of me refer it to. You can find it at www.ceocampout.com. This is time off-grid with other men who are refusing mediocrity. We ditch our phones. We be honest about what's going on in our lives. We connect with one another. We have delicious food, fire, hiking, playing around in the woods. It's really, really powerful, relaxing experience. You'll get challenged in a positive way, but you'll walk away from it the most clear you've probably ever been in a long time, and the most relaxed you've ever been in a long time. So check out the website, ceocampout.com. And if you want to inquire as to how to work with me, just drop me a message at Coach Ben Price, and I'd love to just connect with you if you've been impacted by anything in the podcast. Not necessarily to work with each other, but just to connect, just to help in any way and serve in any way that I can. All right, lots of love and thanks for listening. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. It really helps us elevate. If you would leave a comment as well, that would be amazing, and share it with somebody who you think would be impacted by the message in this episode. All right, lots of love. See you soon.